The phone hit the kitchen wall and shattered into pieces. "You think you can leave me? You think you got somewhere to go?" Shanice pressed her back against the refrigerator. Blood trickled from her bottom lip. Her left eye was already swelling shut. "Darnell, please. Yolanda is in the other room. She can hear everything." "I don't care what that little girl hears. She needs to learn what happens when women don't know their place." He grabbed Shanice by her collar and pulled her close. His breath smelled like whiskey and rage. "You belong to me. You understand? You got nowhere to go. Nobody who cares. Your mama don't want you. Your sister won't answer the phone. You got nothing without me, nothing." He shoved her to the ground. Shanice's head hit the cabinet. Stars exploded behind her eyes. "I'm going out. When I come back, you better have dinner ready and fix your face. You look pathetic." The front door slammed. The apartment fell silent except for Shanice's quiet sobbing. In the bedroom closet, hidden behind winter coats that no longer fit, a 9-year-old girl sat with her knees pulled to her chest. Tears streamed down her face. Her hands trembled as she held her mother's old phone. The screen was cracked. The battery was at 12%. Yolanda had watched her mother suffer for 3 years. 3 years of broken promises. 3 years of "he'll change, and it won't happen again." 3 years of hiding in closets and pretending she didn't hear. But tonight was different. Tonight, something inside Yolanda broke. Or maybe it finally healed enough to feel the anger it had been holding back. She scrolled through her mother's contacts. Uncle Terrence, her mother's older brother, the one who had promised to help them if things got bad. The one who had given Shanice his number 2 years ago and said, "Call me anytime, day or night." Yolanda typed the number carefully. Her fingers shook. She made a mistake. She didn't notice. She pressed send. "Please help us. He's beating my mom again. I'm scared. I don't know what to do. Please, Uncle Terrence, please come." Then she waited, holding her breath, praying to a God she wasn't sure she believed in anymore. The response came 90 seconds later. "This is not Terrence, but are you safe? Where are you?" Yolanda's heart sank. Wrong number. She had texted a complete stranger. Fear and embarrassment flooded through her. What if this person called the police? What if Darnell found out? What if she made everything worse? She typed quickly, "I'm sorry, wrong number. Please forget I said anything. We're fine." The response was immediate. "I don't believe you're fine. My name is Marcus. I want to help. Please tell me where you are." Yolanda stared at the screen. A stranger named Marcus wanted to help. Why would a stranger care? People didn't care about other people's problems. That's what Darnell always said. "Nobody cares about you, except me. That's why you need me." But this Marcus person was asking questions. This Marcus person said he wanted to help. Yolanda thought about her mother on the kitchen floor, about the blood, about the crying, about all the nights she'd wished someone would come and make it stop. She typed back, "My name is Yolanda. I'm 9. We live at the Riverside Gardens apartments on Chelsea Avenue, apartment 4B. My mom's boyfriend Darnell is hurting her right now. I can hear her crying. I'm hiding in my closet with my phone. Uncle Terrence was supposed to help us, but his number changed. I found his old number in my mom's phone. I guess I got it wrong." If you're listening to this story right now, I need you to do something for me. Subscribe to Billionaire Stories with Mr. Lawson and turn on those notifications. This story is going to take you places you don't expect, and I promise you, it's worth staying until the end. Now let me tell you about Marcus Whitfield. 42 floors above the Memphis streets, Marcus Whitfield sat in an office that cost more than most people's homes. Mahogany desk, leather chairs, floor-to-ceiling windows that made the city look like a toy set. Awards and certificates covered one wall. Photos with governors and celebrities covered another. But Marcus wasn't looking at any of that. He was staring at his phone, at a text from a 9-year-old girl he had never met. His heart was pounding in a way it hadn't pounded in years. He'd been numb for so long. Since Lorraine died, since his son stopped calling, since his days became an endless cycle of meetings and spreadsheets and deals that meant nothing except more zeros in accounts he would never empty. But this text, these words from a scared child in a closet, they cut through 4 years of numbness like a knife through butter. Marcus typed, "Yolanda, I need you to listen to me carefully. Stay hidden. Stay quiet. I'm coming. Can you tell me your mom's name?" He was already standing up, already grabbing his keys from the desk drawer, already calculating how long it would take to reach Chelsea Avenue. Shanice Coleman, are you really coming? You don't even know us. I'm coming, I promise. Marcus ran for the elevator. His secretary Janet looked up from her computer with confusion on her face. Mr. Whitfield, your 8 o'clock conference call with the Tokyo investors. Cancel it. Sir? Cancel all of it. Everything tonight. I don't care what it costs. Janet had worked for Marcus for 11 years. She had never seen him cancel anything. Not when his wife was in chemotherapy. Not when his father died. Not ever. Is everything all right? Marcus stopped. He looked at Janet. This woman who had been loyal to him for over a decade. This woman who knew his schedule better than he did. No, he said honestly. Everything is not all right, but I'm going to try to fix it. The elevator took 42 seconds to reach the lobby. Marcus counted every single one. Gerald was outside with the car. Always outside with the car. Waiting. Ready. A 63-year-old man who had been driving Marcus for 15 years. Who knew when to talk and when to stay silent. Chelsea Avenue, Marcus said as he climbed in. Riverside Gardens Apartments, fast as you can without killing us. Gerald didn't ask questions. He just drove. Marcus texted Yolanda again. I'm in the car, 20 minutes away, maybe less. Are you still safe? Yes, the yelling stopped. I think he left, but Mama's crying. She's crying so hard. Stay where you are until I arrive. I'll knock 4 times so you know it's me. Marcus leaned back in his seat and closed his eyes. His hands were shaking. Actually shaking. He couldn't remember the last time his hands had shaken. The memories came whether he wanted them or not. 1977. Memphis. A different apartment complex, but the same story. A little boy hiding under his bed, listening to his father's fists, listening to his mother's screams, praying for someone to come, praying for someone to help. Nobody came. Night after night, year after year. Nobody came, until one day his mother gathered what little courage she had left. Until one day she grabbed Marcus's hand and walked out the door with nothing but the clothes on their backs. Until one day they found a shelter run by a church that asked no questions. That just opened its doors and said, "You're safe now." Marcus had been 11 years old. He had promised himself that night, lying on a cot in a room with 7 other displaced families, that if he ever had the means to help someone escape the same nightmare, he would. No hesitation, no excuses, no looking the other way. 51 years old. A billion-dollar company. More money than he could spend in 10 lifetimes. And this was the first time the universe had tested that promise. He pulled out his phone and dialed 911. Memphis Emergency Services. What is your emergency? I'm reporting a domestic violence situation at Riverside Gardens Apartments on Chelsea Avenue. Apartment 4B. A woman named Shanice Coleman has been assaulted by her boyfriend. The boyfriend has left the premises but may return. A child is also present. A 9-year-old girl. Sir, how do you know about this situation? The child texted me, asking for help. Are you a family member? No. She texted the wrong number, but I'm on my way there now. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Marcus could almost hear the dispatcher trying to make sense of what she was hearing. Sir, I strongly advise you not to involve yourself in a potentially dangerous domestic situation. We can send officers to... Send whoever you want. I'm going regardless. He hung up. Gerald glanced in the rearview mirror but said nothing. The car accelerated. The streets of Memphis blurred past. Marcus watched the neighborhoods change. Sleek downtown towers gave way to older buildings. Older buildings gave way to the kind of neighborhoods that politicians forgot about. The kind of neighborhoods where Marcus had grown up. Riverside Gardens looked exactly like the projects Marcus remembered from his childhood. 3 buildings arranged in a U-shape around a parking lot. Broken streetlights, overflowing dumpsters, the smell of poverty and hopelessness that clung to everything like cigarette smoke. Wait here, Marcus told Gerald. If I'm not back in 20 minutes, call the police again. Mr. Whitfield. 20 minutes. Marcus stepped out of the car. The night air was thick with humidity. Somewhere, a dog barked. Somewhere else, a television played too loud through thin walls. He climbed the stairs to the 2nd floor. His expensive shoes felt wrong on the cracked concrete. His tailored suit felt wrong against the peeling paint. Everything about his presence here felt wrong. But the text message in his pocket felt right. Apartment 4B. The door was brown. The paint was chipped. A faded welcome mat lay in front of it. Welcome. As if anyone felt welcomed here. Marcus knocked 4 times. He heard movement inside. Footsteps approaching. The sound of a chain being unlatched. The door opened 2 inches. A small face appeared in the crack. Brown eyes. Braids pulled back. A purple shirt with a cartoon cat. Yolanda? Are you Marcus? I am. She studied him for a long moment. This little girl who had trusted a stranger with her family's darkest secret. This little girl who had more courage in her 9-year-old body than most adults Marcus knew. You're wearing a suit, she said. I came straight from work. You look rich. I have some money, yes. Another pause. More studying. Then Yolanda opened the door wider. Mama's on the couch. She's hurt pretty bad. She doesn't know I texted you. She might be mad. Marcus stepped inside. The apartment was small. Clean, but small. A living room that connected to a tiny kitchen. A hallway that probably led to 1 or 2 bedrooms. Everything was worn but well cared for. Someone here was trying their best with very little. Shanice Coleman sat on a faded couch against the far wall. Her face was a map of violence. Swollen eye. Split lip. Bruises forming along her cheekbone. She looked up when Marcus entered, and her expression shifted from confusion to fear to something else. Something like shame. Who are you? What are you doing here? My daughter texted the wrong number, Yolanda said quickly. She moved to stand between Marcus and her mother. Protective. Defensive. He came to help. Mama, he came to help us. Yolanda, what did you do? The fear in Shanice's voice was sharp. She tried to stand but winced and fell back against the cushions. I texted Uncle Terrence's old number, but it went to him instead, and he came. He actually came. Shanice looked at Marcus, really looked at him, at his expensive suit and his graying temples and his face that was full of concern instead of threat. You need to leave, she said. Right now. If Darnell comes back and finds a man in this apartment, he'll kill us all. I'm not exaggerating. He has a gun. He will actually kill us. Then we need to leave before he comes back. I can't leave. I have nowhere to go. That's not true. Marcus took a step closer. Not threatening. Not aggressive. Just present. He'd learned over 40 years in business how to command attention without commanding fear. My name is Marcus Whitfield. I run a company called Whitfield Industries, construction, real estate, development, but I also run a foundation, the Whitfield Foundation. We help families in crisis, families exactly like yours. Shanice's eyes narrowed. Distrust etched in every line of her face. I don't need charity. It's not charity, it's a hand, one human being reaching out to another. No strings, no expectations, no obligations, just help. Why? The question hung in the air. It was the same question Yolanda had asked in her text. The question that anyone in their position would ask. Why would a stranger in an expensive suit care about a woman getting beaten in a rundown apartment? Marcus had never told this story to anyone except Lorraine. He'd never found the words, never found the courage, but standing in this apartment, looking at this woman with her bruised face and her hopeless eyes, he found both. Because when I was 11 years old, my mother sat on a couch just like this one, with the same bruises, the same hopelessness, the same belief that nobody would help and nowhere to go. And one night, a stranger did help, a woman from a church. She didn't know us anything, but she opened a door, and my mother walked through it, and everything changed. Shanice was silent. Her hands had stopped trembling. I told myself that day that if I ever had the means to open that same door for someone else, I would, no matter what, no questions asked. Tonight your daughter sent a text that was meant for someone else but ended up with me. I don't believe in accidents. I don't believe in coincidences. I believe that text was supposed to reach me. He took another step, close enough now to see the tears forming in Shanice's undamaged eye. Let me help you. Not because you're helpless. You're clearly not. Anyone who has survived what you've survived is not helpless, but because everyone deserves a door. Everyone deserves a chance to walk through it. Shanice looked at Yolanda, at her daughter, who had risked everything to send that text, at her daughter who was standing there with hope in her eyes for the first time in years. Mama, please. Yolanda's voice cracked. I don't want to be scared anymore. I don't want to hear you cry anymore. Please, can we go with him? The silence stretched. Outside, a car alarm went off. Someone yelled at it to shut up. The world kept moving while this moment held still. Shanice looked back at Marcus. How do I know I can trust you? You don't. Trust is earned, not given. But I'm offering you a choice. You can stay here and wait for Darnell to come back, or you can take a chance on a stranger who showed up when he didn't have to. Now, before I continue, let me ask you something. Have you ever been given a choice that terrified you? A choice where neither option felt safe? If this story is hitting you in places you didn't expect, drop a comment below. Let me know what you're thinking, what you're feeling. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. This story is far from over, and what happens next will stay with you. Trust me, Shanice made her choice. Okay, we'll go. 3 words. Quiet. Simple. The most powerful words she had spoken in 3 years. Pack what you need, only the essentials. We need to move fast. Yolanda was already running to her room. Shanice stood slowly, painfully, and moved toward the hallway. 15 minutes, Marcus said. We should be gone in 15 minutes. Shanice paused at the hallway entrance. She turned back. Why did you answer her text? When you saw it was a wrong number, why didn't you just ignore it? Marcus thought about the question. The real answer was complicated. The real answer involved years of therapy and unresolved trauma, and a mother who never fully healed from what his father did. But the simple answer was this. Because I read the words "he's beating my mom," and remembered exactly how it feels to be a child with nowhere to turn. I couldn't ignore that. I wouldn't. Shanice nodded. She didn't say thank you. The words felt too small. Instead, she just looked at him with those tired, bruised eyes, and something passed between them. An understanding that went deeper than gratitude. Then she turned and went to pack. Marcus stood alone in the small living room. He looked around at the evidence of a life being lived under siege. The locks on the windows, the bolt on the door, the Bible on the coffee table, worn from constant handling. The photograph on the wall of Yolanda as a baby, held by a younger, healthier Shanice who didn't yet know what was coming. His phone buzzed. Gerald. Everything okay, sir? You've been in there 12 minutes. Fine. Give me 5 more. We're coming out with 2 additional passengers. Should I be concerned? Not anymore. He hung up. Yolanda emerged first. She had a small backpack over her shoulders and a stuffed elephant tucked under her arm. The elephant was gray with a floppy trunk and patches where the fabric had been loved thin. This is Gerald, she said, holding up the elephant. He goes everywhere with me. Marcus smiled. I have a driver named Gerald. He goes everywhere with me too. Yolanda's eyes widened. Really? Really? That's funny. It is. Shanice came out next. She had a duffel bag over one shoulder and a worn Bible clutched against her chest. Her face was set in determination. No more tears. No more hesitation. She had made her choice, and she was sticking with it. Ready? Marcus asked. Shanice took one last look around the apartment, at the home that had become a prison, at the walls that had witnessed so much pain, at the life she was leaving behind. Ready. They walked to the door. Marcus opened it and stepped out first, checking the hallway. Empty. Quiet. They moved quickly down the stairs to the parking lot. Gerald was standing outside the car. His eyes widened slightly when he saw Shanice's face, but he said nothing. He simply opened the back door and helped them inside. Where to? He asked Marcus. The Foundation Shelter, Pine Street location. Gerald nodded. He knew the place well. He'd driven many people there over the years. People in crisis. People running. People looking for a second chance. The car pulled out of the parking lot. Yolanda pressed her face against the window, watching Riverside Gardens disappear behind them. Will he be able to find us? She asked quietly. No, Marcus said. The shelter address is confidential. Only staff know where it is, and they don't give out information to anyone. Promise? I promise. Yolanda leaned back in her seat. She hugged Gerald the elephant tighter. Mama? Yes, baby? We're really leaving. Shanice reached over and took her daughter's hand. We're really leaving. They drove in silence for a while. The Memphis streets passed by in a blur of lights and shadows. Marcus watched the two of them in the rearview mirror. The mother and daughter who had trusted a stranger with their lives. He thought about Lorraine, about how she would have handled this. She'd always been better with people than him. Warmer, more approachable. She would have known exactly what to say to make Shanice feel safe. She would have had Yolanda laughing within 5 minutes. But Lorraine was gone, and Marcus was here, and sometimes showing up was enough. The shelter was a converted mansion on a quiet street in Midtown Memphis. 3 stories. Victorian architecture. A wraparound porch with rocking chairs. It looked like a home because it was one. Marcus had bought it specifically because it didn't look like a shelter. It looked like somewhere people actually lived. Celeste Washington met them at the door. She was a tall woman in her late 50s with silver hair and kind eyes. She had run the shelter for 8 years and had seen every possible variation of the same painful story. "Good evening," she said warmly. "Welcome. You must be Shanice and Yolanda." Shanice looked surprised. "How did you know our names?" "Mr. Whitfield called ahead. We have a room ready for you. 2 beds, private bathroom, a window that looks out on the garden. You're going to be safe here." Yolanda looked up at her mother. "She seems nice." Celeste smiled. "I try to be. And who is this handsome fellow?" She pointed at the stuffed elephant. "This is Gerald." "Well, Gerald is very welcome here too." They went inside. The mansion was warm and inviting. A fire crackled in the living room fireplace. Other residents moved around quietly, going about their evenings. Nobody stared at Shanice's bruised face. Nobody asked questions. They had all been there themselves. Celeste led them upstairs to their room. It was exactly as she had described. 2 twin beds with clean white sheets, a nightstand with a lamp, a dresser with fresh towels, a window that looked out on a small garden lit by string lights. Yolanda ran to the window immediately. "Mama, look, there are flowers, and a bench. Can I go sit on the bench tomorrow?" "We'll see, baby." Celeste excused herself to give them privacy. "I'll be downstairs if you need anything. Breakfast is at 8, dinner is at 7, but there's always food in the kitchen if you're hungry now." After she left, Shanice sank onto one of the beds. The weight of everything came crashing down. The fear, the pain, the relief, the uncertainty. It was all too much. She started crying, not the quiet crying from before. This was different. This was the crying that came from somewhere deep. The crying that had been trapped for years behind walls of survival and denial. Yolanda climbed onto the bed next to her and wrapped her small arms around her mother's shoulders. "It's okay, Mama. We're safe now. The man said so. Marcus said so." Marcus stood awkwardly near the door. He had money. He had resources. He had influence and power and all the tools that success could provide. But he had nothing for this moment. No fix, no solution, just presence. So he sat down in the chair across from the bed. And he waited. The crying went on for a long time. 5 minutes. 10. Shanice cried until there was nothing left to cry. Until she was empty. When she finally looked up, her eyes were red and swollen. But something in them had shifted. Something had been released. "I've been with him for 3 years, she said. Her voice was hoarse. 3 years. The first year was good. He was charming, sweet, treated me like a queen. Then it changed, slowly at first. A comment here, a criticism there. Then the first slap. Then the first punch. By the time I realized what was happening, I was trapped." Marcus listened. He didn't interrupt. Didn't offer advice. Didn't try to fix. "I tried to leave twice. The first time he found me at my sister's house. Beat me so bad I couldn't walk for a week. The second time he threatened to kill Yolanda. Said he'd make me watch. I believed him." Yolanda had curled up on the bed with Gerald the elephant. Her eyes were heavy. The exhaustion of the night catching up. "My family gave up on me," Shanice continued. "They said I kept going back, so I must like it. They stopped answering my calls, stopped offering help. I was alone, completely alone. I stayed because I didn't know how to leave. I stayed because I thought this was my life now. This was what I deserved." "You didn't deserve any of it," Marcus said. His voice was quiet, but firm. "Nobody deserves what he did to you." "Then why did it happen? If I didn't deserve it, why did it happen?" It was the question that every survivor asked. The question that never had a satisfying answer. Because sometimes terrible things happen to good people. Sometimes evil found its way into innocent lives. And there was no reason, no purpose, no lesson, just pain. "I don't know why it happened," Marcus said honestly. "I don't believe there's a good answer to that question. But I know this. What happened to you is not who you are, and what happens next is still unwritten." Shanice wiped her eyes. She looked at Yolanda, who had fallen asleep with Gerald clutched to her chest. "She saved us. My 9-year-old daughter saved us. She texted a stranger and that stranger showed up. How does that happen?" "I've been asking myself the same thing all night." Shanice looked at Marcus directly. "Tell me the truth. Why are you really here? Rich men don't just show up at apartments in Riverside Gardens at 9 o'clock at night because a little girl texted them. What's the real story? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. He could have given her the abbreviated version. The foundation, his work, his reputation for philanthropy, all true, all sufficient, but this woman had just shared her deepest pain with a stranger. She deserved the same honesty. My father beat my mother for 15 years. I watched it happen from the time I was 4 until I was 11. Every night I would hide under my bed or in my closet and listen to him hit her, and pray for someone to come, and no one ever did. Shanice's expression softened. When I was 11, my mother finally found the courage to leave. A woman from a church helped us, gave us a place to stay, gave my mother a job cleaning houses, gave me a chance to grow up without fear. Marcus paused, gathered himself. I built everything I have from that moment, every company, every building, every dollar. I built it because I was running from that apartment, running from those memories, running from the helplessness of being a child who couldn't protect his mother. He looked at Shanice. When I read your daughter's text, I wasn't thinking about philanthropy or foundations or doing the right thing. I was thinking about the 11-year-old boy who prayed for someone to come, and I was thinking that maybe after all these years I could finally be that person for someone else. The silence stretched between them. Outside, the garden lights twinkled softly. Inside, Yolanda's quiet breathing filled the room. I'm sorry about your mother, Shanice said finally. And I'm sorry about the boy you used to be. I'm sorry about what you've been through, and I'm sorry about the woman you had to become to survive it. Shanice nodded slowly. Something had shifted between them. Some wall had come down. They were still strangers, but they were strangers who understood each other in ways that most people never could. What happens now? Shanice asked. Now you rest. Tomorrow Celeste will introduce you to the staff here, counselors, job training specialists, legal advocates who can help you get a restraining order. This shelter isn't just a place to sleep, it's a launching pad. Everything you need to rebuild your life is available to you. No charge, no conditions. And you, what happens to you? Marcus stood up. He moved toward the door. I go back to my office, my apartment, my life, but I'll check on you, both of you, if that's okay. Why would you do that? You don't owe us anything. You've already done more than we could ever repay. Marcus paused at the door. He looked back at Shanice and her sleeping daughter. I spent 4 years building an empire and losing my soul in the process. My wife died. My sons drifted away. I forgot why I started any of this. Tonight reminded me. Tonight gave me something I haven't had in a long time. What's that? Purpose. He opened the door. Get some sleep. Tomorrow is the first day of your new life. It won't be easy. Rebuilding never is, but you won't be alone. He left. His footsteps echoed down the hallway. Shanice listened until she couldn't hear them anymore. Then she lay down next to her daughter, wrapped her arms around Yolanda's small body, breathed in the scent of her hair. They were safe. For the first time in 3 years, they were actually safe. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, didn't know how hard the road ahead would be, didn't know if she had the strength to walk it. But she knew one thing. A stranger had shown up. A stranger had kept his promise. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough to start. Shanice closed her eyes. Sleep came quickly. For the first time in years, there were no nightmares. Just peace. Just rest. Just the quiet certainty that tomorrow would be different. Because tonight, everything had changed. Because tonight, a little girl had texted the wrong number. And it had turned out to be exactly the right one. Morning light crept through the window of the small room at the Whitfield Foundation shelter. Yolanda woke first. She lay still for a long moment, confused by the unfamiliar ceiling, the unfamiliar sounds, the unfamiliar smell of fresh linen instead of cigarette smoke and cheap air freshener. Then she remembered. She turned her head slowly. Her mother lay beside her, still sleeping. The bruises on Shanice's face looked worse in daylight, purple and yellow spreading across her cheekbone. The swelling around her eye had gotten bigger overnight, but she was breathing. She was here. She was safe. Yolanda slipped out of bed quietly. She picked up Gerald the elephant from where he had fallen on the floor and walked to the window. The garden below was even prettier in morning light. Red flowers, yellow flowers, a stone path winding between them. An older woman sat on the bench reading a book. This place was real. Last night had actually happened. A stranger named Marcus had actually come. Yolanda pressed her forehead against the cool glass and whispered a prayer. The first prayer she had meant in a long time. Thank you. I don't know if you're real or if you're listening, but thank you. Behind her, Shanice stirred. Baby, what time is it? Yolanda turned around. I don't know. The sun is up, though. Shanice sat up slowly, wincing at the pain in her ribs. Everything hurt, but it was a different kind of hurt this morning. The hurt of healing instead of the hurt of fresh wounds. Come here, she said, holding out her arms. Yolanda climbed back onto the bed and let her mother hold her. They stayed like that for a while, not talking, just breathing, just being together in a place where nobody was going to hurt them. A knock on the door interrupted the moment. Good morning. Celeste's voice came through the wood. Breakfast is ready downstairs whenever you're hungry. No rush, take your time. Shanice looked at Yolanda. You hungry? Starving. They got dressed in yesterday's clothes. Shanice tried to fix her hair in the small mirror above the dresser but gave up quickly. There was no hiding what had happened to her face. No point pretending. The dining room was on the first floor. A long wooden table sat in the center, surrounded by mismatched chairs. 4 other women were already eating. 2 had children with them. Nobody stared when Shanice and Yolanda walked in. Nobody whispered. One woman simply looked up, nodded in acknowledgement, and went back to her eggs. Celeste appeared with 2 plates. Scrambled eggs, toast, bacon, and fruit. Coffee for you, Shanice. Orange juice for Yolanda, unless you'd prefer something else. This is perfect, Shanice said. Thank you. They sat at the end of the table. Yolanda ate like she hadn't eaten in days. Shanice picked at her food, her appetite lost somewhere between last night and this morning. The eggs are really good, Yolanda said through a mouthful. Way better than what Darnell made. Shanice flinched at the name. She looked around quickly, as if saying it might summon him. One of the other women noticed. She was maybe 40, with short gray hair and tired eyes. She leaned over and spoke quietly. First day is the hardest. Gets easier after that. I've been here 6 weeks. Haven't thought about going back in 4. Shanice nodded but said nothing. The woman extended her hand. I'm Paulette, room 3B. If you need anything, someone to talk to, someone to just sit with, I'm around. Shanice, this is my daughter Yolanda. Pretty name. My daughter's name is Destiny. She's 7. They could play together if Yolanda wants. Yolanda looked up hopefully. Can I, Mama? Maybe later. Let's get settled first. After breakfast, Celeste gave them a tour of the shelter. The common areas. The library filled with donated books. The playroom where children could be children without fear. The counseling offices on the 2nd floor. The job training center in the basement. We have everything you need here, Celeste explained. Clothes, toiletries, anything you forgot or couldn't bring. The goal is to help you stabilize first. Then we work on the future. Finding employment, finding housing, building a life that belongs only to you. Shanice listened carefully to everything. Absorbing. Processing. Trying to believe this was real. How long can we stay? She asked. Up to 18 months if needed. Most residents are ready to transition out within 6 to 12, but there's no pressure. Everyone heals at their own pace. 18 months. A year and a half of safety. Shanice couldn't imagine that far ahead. She could barely imagine tomorrow. What about Darnell? What if he tries to find us? Celeste's expression grew serious. This address is completely confidential. We're not listed anywhere. No signs outside. No public records connecting us to the Whitfield Foundation. Even the mail comes to a different location. In 8 years, we've never had a breach. But he's smart, and he's mean, and he has friends everywhere. I understand your fear. It's valid. But I need you to hear me clearly. Celeste placed a hand on Shanice's shoulder. You are protected here. We have security systems, protocols, and relationships with local law enforcement. We have dealt with dangerous men before. We know what we're doing. Shanice wanted to believe her. Wanted to let go of the fear that had become her constant companion. But 3 years of looking over her shoulder couldn't be erased in one morning. Okay, she said quietly. I'll try to trust that. That's all I ask. The first week passed in a blur. Yolanda enrolled in the shelter's homeschool program. A retired teacher named Miss Henrietta came 3 times a week to work with the children. She was patient and kind and never raised her voice. Yolanda adored her. Shanice started counseling sessions with a woman named Dr. Renita Okafor, Nigerian-American, 53 years old, 20 years of experience working with trauma survivors. She didn't push. Didn't pry, just sat with Shanice and let her talk when she was ready. You don't have to tell me everything, Dr. Okafor said during their second session. You don't have to tell me anything you're not ready to share. This is your space, your healing. I'm just here to witness it. Shanice found herself talking anyway. Words she had held inside for years came pouring out. The first time Darnell hit her, the excuses she made, the shame she carried, the way she started believing she deserved it. He used to tell me nobody would ever love me like he did, she said, staring at her hands. That I was lucky he put up with me, that any other man would have left me by now. I believed him. I actually believed him. Abusers are skilled manipulators, Dr. Okafor said gently. They know exactly what to say to make you doubt yourself. That's not a reflection of your intelligence, it's a reflection of their cruelty. But I stayed. For 3 years, I stayed. You survived for 3 years. That's different. Staying and surviving are not the same thing. You did what you had to do to keep yourself and your daughter alive. There's no shame in that. Shanice looked up. You really believe that? I know it. I've seen it hundreds of times. The women who walk through these doors are not weak. They are warriors who finally found a moment of peace long enough to escape. You are not here because you failed. You are here because you won. For the first time since arriving, Shanice allowed herself to cry in front of someone else. Dr. Okafor handed her tissues and sat quietly until the tears stopped. Same time Thursday? She asked. Shanice nodded. Same time Thursday. Marcus came to visit on the 8th day. He arrived in the afternoon, wearing khakis and a simple blue sweater instead of his usual suit. He looked different, softer somehow, more human. Yolanda saw him first. She was in the garden with Destiny, Paulette's daughter, playing some complicated game involving sticks and imaginary kingdoms. Marcus! She ran toward him at full speed. He caught her in an awkward hug. Physical affection didn't come naturally to him, but Yolanda didn't seem to notice or care. You came back. You actually came back. I told you I would. I know, but I thought maybe you were just saying that. Adults say things they don't mean all the time. The honesty of children. It cut deeper than any boardroom criticism ever had. I meant it, Marcus said. I always mean what I say. Shanice appeared on the porch. Her bruises had faded to yellow-green. The swelling was gone. She looked tired but healthier. Stronger. Mr. Whitfield. Please, just Marcus. She walked down the steps and stood in front of him. For a moment, neither spoke. The garden sounds filled the silence. Birds singing, children playing, wind rustling through leaves. Thank you for coming, Shanice finally said. I wasn't sure if you would. I wasn't sure either. My secretary had to remind me 3 times that I had cleared the afternoon. Busy man. Used to be. Trying to figure out what that means now. They walked together around the garden path. Yolanda ran ahead with Destiny, their laughter echoing across the grounds. How are you settling in? Marcus asked. Better than I expected. The staff here are incredible, Dr. Okafor especially. She makes me feel like maybe I'm not as broken as I thought. You're not broken. Damaged maybe, but not broken. There's a difference. Shanice considered this. What's the difference? Broken things can't be fixed. Damaged things can heal. They might not look the same as before. They might carry scars, but they work again, sometimes even better than before. That sounds like something you've thought about a lot. I have, for most of my life. They reached a bench at the far end of the garden, sat down together, watched the girls play. Can I ask you something personal? Shanice said. You can ask. I might not answer. Your mother, the one you told me about that first night, what happened to her? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. His eyes followed Yolanda as she climbed a small tree. She died when I was 26, heart attack. The doctor said it was probably related to years of stress and trauma. The body remembers what the mind tries to forget. I'm sorry. She got to see me graduate college, first one in our family. She got to see me start my first business, a small construction company with 2 employees and more hope than sense. She knew I was going to be okay. That was enough for her. Did she ever heal from what your father did? Not completely. I don't think you ever heal completely. You just learn to carry the weight differently. She had nightmares until the day she died, flinched at loud noises, couldn't watch violence on television. The scars stayed, but she lived. She laughed. She found moments of joy. Shanice absorbed this. The idea that healing didn't mean erasing, that survival didn't mean forgetting. I'm scared, she admitted. Not of Darnell finding us, not of the practical stuff, I'm scared that I don't know who I am anymore. For 3 years I was his victim, his punching bag, his prisoner. Now I'm supposed to be my own person again, but I don't remember who that person is." Marcus turned to look at her directly. "That's the work ahead of you. Rediscovering yourself, rebuilding your identity. It won't happen overnight. It won't happen in a month or even a year, but it will happen. If you show up for yourself every single day, it will happen." "How do you know?" "Because I watched my mother do it, and because I've had to do it myself in different ways over and over again." Before Shanice could respond, Yolanda came running over. "Marcus, watch this." She proceeded to do a cartwheel that was more enthusiasm than technique. "Did you see?" "I saw. Very impressive." "I've been practicing. Miss Henrietta says I'm a natural athlete." "Miss Henrietta sounds like a smart woman." Yolanda beamed. Then her expression grew serious. "Are you going to keep visiting us?" Marcus looked at Shanice. Then, back at Yolanda. "If you want me to." "I want you to. Mama wants you to also. She told Paulette that you were a good man. She never says that about anyone." Shanice's face flushed. "Yolanda, we talked about repeating private conversations." "But it's true. You did say that." Marcus allowed himself a small smile. The first genuine smile in longer than he could remember. "Then I'll keep visiting. If you're still with me right now, I want you to take a second and think about the people who showed up for you when you needed them most. The ones who didn't have to be there but chose to be anyway. This story is about those people, about choosing each other, about family that isn't about blood but about commitment. If that resonates with you, share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And stay with me. We're not done yet." The second month brought challenges nobody expected. Darnell had been looking for Shanice since the night she disappeared. He had called her family, her old job, everyone she knew. Nobody had answers. Nobody knew where she had gone. This made him angrier, more desperate, more dangerous. He started drinking heavily, lost his job at the warehouse, got into fights at bars. The police picked him up twice for disorderly conduct, but released him both times. Shanice didn't know any of this. The shelter staff deliberately kept outside information away from residents unless it was directly relevant to their safety. They wanted the women to focus on healing, not on what their abusers were doing without them. But Darnell was resourceful. He remembered that Shanice had once mentioned a cousin named Felicia who lived in Midtown. He tracked Felicia down and showed up at her door with flowers and apologies and his most charming smile. "I just want to talk to her," he said. "I made mistakes, I know that, but I love her. I love Yolanda. I want to make things right." Felicia didn't know where Shanice was, but she knew someone who might. 1 week later, Darnell had narrowed down the possibilities to 3 locations. 3 shelters in the Memphis area that took domestic violence survivors. He couldn't get inside any of them, but he could watch. He could wait. On a Tuesday morning, Shanice was walking back from the corner store, 2 blocks from the shelter. Celeste had encouraged her to start taking short trips outside. Part of rebuilding independence, part of proving to herself that the world wasn't as dangerous as Darnell had made it seem. She was carrying a bag of groceries, apples for Yolanda, coffee for herself, small things that felt like huge victories. A car pulled up beside her. "Hey, beautiful, miss me?" Shanice froze. The blood drained from her face. Every survival instinct she had developed over 3 years kicked in at once. Run, scream, fight, do something. But her body wouldn't move. Her voice wouldn't work. She was 11 months old again. Trapped in terror she couldn't escape. Darnell got out of the car. He looked different. Thinner, wilder. His eyes had a desperate edge she had never seen before. 3 months, he said, walking toward her. 3 months I've been looking for you. Do you know what that's been like for me? Shanice found her voice. It came out as a whisper. "Please leave me alone." "Leave you alone? You're my woman, my family. You think I'm just going to let you walk away? You think some rich man is going to save you?" He knew about Marcus. Somehow, he knew. "I saw the car that picked you up. I did my research. Marcus Whitfield, Billionaire, Foundation for Battered Women. You think he cares about you? You think he's going to stick around when he finds out what you really are? When he sees how damaged you are?" Every word was a knife. Shanice felt herself shrinking, becoming small again, becoming the woman who believed she deserved to be hit. "Come home with me, right now. I'll forgive everything. We'll start over, be a family again." He reached for her arm. and something inside Shanice snapped, not broke, snapped into place. She stepped backward, dropped the grocery bag, looked Darnell directly in the eyes. No. One word. Quiet but firm. What did you say? I said no. I'm not coming home with you. I'm not your woman. I'm not your property. I'm not going to let you hurt me or my daughter ever again. Darnell's face twisted with rage. He lunged toward her, but a car door slammed nearby. Footsteps approached quickly. Marcus appeared between them, his body a barrier between Darnell and Shanice. Walk away, Marcus said. His voice was calm but carried an authority that came from decades of commanding boardrooms and construction sites. Walk away, right now. Who the hell are you to tell me anything? This is between me and my woman. She's not your woman. She's not your anything. And if you take one more step toward her, I will personally make sure you spend the next decade in a prison cell. I have lawyers who would love nothing more than to destroy you. I have connections with the district attorney's office, the police chief, and every judge in Shelby County. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Darnell hesitated. His fists clenched and unclenched. The rage in his eyes battled with something else. Fear, maybe, or calculation. This ain't over, he said finally. You can't protect her forever. I don't have to protect her forever, just long enough for the restraining order to go through, and the charges to be filed, and the evidence to be compiled. You see, Darnell, I've been building a case against you for the last 2 months. Witnesses, medical records, police reports. Everything you've done to Shanice is documented. Everything you've done to other women before her is documented. You're not as smart as you think you are. Marcus took a step forward. Darnell took a step back. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to get in your car and drive away. You're going to forget where you saw us today. You're going to never contact Shanice or Yolanda again. And in exchange, I won't have you arrested this afternoon. Does that sound fair? Darnell's jaw tightened. His whole body trembled with impotent rage. For 3 years he had been the one with power, the one who decided what happened, the one who controlled everything. Now he was not powerless, outmatched. You'll regret this, he said, backing toward his car. Both of you, you'll regret this. He got in and drove away. The car disappeared around a corner. The street fell silent. Shanice collapsed against Marcus. Her whole body shook. Tears poured down her face. I said no, she whispered. I actually said no to him. Marcus held her, awkwardly at first, then more naturally, the way someone holds another person when there are no words sufficient for the moment. You did. You said no, and you meant it. How did you know he was here? Gerald spotted the car following you when you left the shelter. He called me immediately. I was already in the neighborhood for a meeting. Shanice pulled back and looked at him. You've been watching over us. I've been keeping an eye on things. There's a difference. No, there isn't. They stood there on the sidewalk, 2 people who had started as strangers, who had become something neither of them had expected. The groceries, Shanice said suddenly. I dropped the groceries. Marcus looked at the bag on the ground. Apples had rolled into the gutter. Coffee was spilled across the concrete. I'll replace them. You don't have to do that. I know. I want to. They walked back toward the shelter together. Neither spoke. But the silence wasn't awkward. It was comfortable. The kind of silence that exists between people who understand each other without needing words. The months that followed were full of work. Hard, uncomfortable, necessary work. Shanice completed the job training program at the shelter. She learned computer skills, resume writing, interview techniques, things she had never had the chance to learn because she had spent her 20s surviving instead of building. Dr. Okafor continued their weekly sessions. The conversations went deeper. Childhood trauma, family dysfunction, patterns that stretched back generations. Shanice learned that her grandmother had been abused. Her great-grandmother, too. She was part of a cycle that nobody had ever taught her how to break. Breaking cycles is the hardest work there is, Dr. Okafor said. It means rejecting what you were taught, what you absorbed without even knowing. It means choosing to be different when being the same feels safer. Is that what I'm doing? Breaking a cycle? That's exactly what you're doing, and by doing it, you're ensuring Yolanda doesn't repeat it. Yolanda flourished. Miss Henrietta said she was reading at a 7th grade level, despite being only 10. She made friends with other children at the shelter. She started calling Marcus Uncle Marcus without anyone suggesting it. The first time she said it, Marcus had to excuse himself from the room. He stood in the hallway and pressed his hand against his chest, trying to understand the feeling there. It had been so long since anyone had called him family. The restraining order against Darnell went through. The prosecutor's office decided not to pursue criminal charges due to insufficient evidence, but Darnell had been scared enough by Marcus's threats that he left Memphis entirely, moved to Atlanta, started a new life with a new woman who didn't know what he was capable of. Shanice didn't feel relieved by this news. She felt worried for the new woman. But Dr. Okafor reminded her that she couldn't save everyone, that her responsibility was to herself and her daughter, that sometimes letting go was the bravest thing you could do. At the 11-month mark, Shanice got a job. It was an administrative position at a small nonprofit that worked with homeless youth. The pay wasn't great, but the work was meaningful. Shanice discovered that she was good at it, good at talking to young people who had been through hard things, good at making them feel seen and heard. "You have a gift," her supervisor told her, "a way of connecting with people who don't trust easily. That's not something you can teach." Shanice thought about all the years she had spent believing she was worthless, all the lies Darnell had poured into her ears. She wondered what else she might be good at that she had never discovered. At the 12-month mark, she and Yolanda moved out of the shelter and into a small apartment on the east side of Memphis. 2 bedrooms, a kitchen with a window that looked out on a tree. It wasn't much, but it was theirs. Marcus helped them move. Gerald helped too. The 4 of them spent a Saturday carrying boxes up 3 flights of stairs and assembling furniture from flat packs. "This bookshelf makes no sense," Marcus complained, staring at the instructions. "I've built skyscrapers less complicated than this." "Maybe you need to read the instructions instead of glaring at them," Shanice suggested. "I don't read instructions, I figure things out." "How's that working for you?" Marcus looked at the half-assembled bookshelf. Pieces were scattered everywhere. He had somehow ended up with extra screws that clearly belonged somewhere important. "Not great," he admitted. Yolanda and Gerald sat on the couch eating pizza and watching the disaster unfold. "They're funny together," Yolanda said. "They are," Gerald agreed. The bookshelf eventually got assembled. It wobbled slightly, but it held books. That was good enough. As the sun set, they all stood in the living room of the new apartment. Boxes still unpacked, furniture still misplaced, but home, actually home. "Thank you," Shanice said, looking at Marcus. "For everything, for showing up that first night, for staying, for all of this. You did the work, all of it. I just opened a door. You did more than that. You walked through it with us." Marcus didn't know what to say. He had spent his whole life using words to close deals and win arguments. But this moment required something different, something he didn't have language for. So he just nodded and hoped she understood. She did. "Now I need to tell you something important. This story has taken us through darkness and into light, through pain and into healing. But the most powerful part is still coming. If you've made it this far, you're the kind of person who understands that real stories don't have easy endings. Real stories have honest ones. So, stay with me. And if this story has meant something to you, subscribe to Billionaire Stories with Mr. Lawson. Hit that notification bell, because stories like this, stories about redemption and second chances and the power of showing up, they're what this channel is all about. 2 years after the text that changed everything, Marcus sat in his office staring at his phone. He had a decision to make. For 24 months, he had watched Shanice rebuild her life from ashes. He had watched Yolanda grow from a frightened girl in a closet to a confident young woman who spoke her mind and laughed freely. He had become part of their lives in ways he never expected. But there was something he hadn't told Shanice, something he had been holding back since the early days of their friendship. His feelings had changed. Somewhere between the shelter visits and the bookshelf assembly and the Sunday dinners that had become routine, Marcus had fallen in love. Not the dramatic, passionate love of movies. Something quieter, deeper. The kind of love that sneaks up on you while you're busy doing ordinary things together. He hadn't said anything because he was afraid. Afraid of complicating her healing. Afraid of being rejected. Afraid of losing what they had built in pursuit of something more. But last week, Yolanda had said something that stuck with him. "Uncle Marcus, why don't you and Mama just get married already? Everyone can tell you like each other." Children see what adults try to hide. Marcus had laughed it off, changed the subject. But the question haunted him. Why didn't he tell her? What was he so afraid of? The answer came to him slowly, over days of reflection. He was afraid of being happy, truly happy, because happiness felt dangerous. Happiness could be taken away. Lorraine had been his happiness once, and then she was gone, and the grief had nearly destroyed him. If he let himself love Shanice fully, if he let himself build a life with her and Yolanda, he would be vulnerable again, open to loss, open to pain. But Dr. Okafor's words from Shanice's counseling sessions echoed in his mind, words Shanice had shared with him during one of their long conversations. The opposite of fear isn't courage, it's love. When you choose love despite your fear, that's the most courageous thing a person can do. Marcus picked up his phone and dialed. "Shanice, are you free tonight? There's something I need to tell you." They met at a small restaurant near her apartment, a place they had discovered together during one of their many evening walks. Nothing fancy, good food, quiet atmosphere. Shanice arrived looking beautiful in a simple dress she had bought with her own money. Her first nice thing that wasn't from a shelter donation box. She wore it like armor, like proof of how far she had come. They ordered food, made small talk, discussed Yolanda's progress in school, Marcus's latest foundation project, the weather, the news, everything except what Marcus actually wanted to say. Finally, Shanice set down her fork. "You're nervous," she said. "I've never seen you nervous, not even when you faced down Darnell. That was different." "Different how?" "That was physical danger. This is—" He struggled for words. "This is harder." Shanice waited, patient, giving him space to find his way. "I need to tell you something," Marcus said. "Something I've been holding back for a long time, and I need you to let me get through it before you respond. Can you do that?" Shanice nodded. Marcus took a breath, then another. "When I got that text from Yolanda 2 years ago, I thought I was going to help a stranger, do a good deed, feel better about myself and move on with my empty life. I didn't expect to meet someone who would change everything." He paused. Shanice's expression was unreadable. "You didn't need me to save you. That became clear very quickly. You saved yourself. You made the choice to leave. You did the work to heal. You built a new life with your own 2 hands. I just happened to be there." "That's not true," Shanice started. "Let me finish, please." She nodded again. "Watching you heal has been the privilege of my life. Watching your courage, your determination, the way you show up for Yolanda every single day, the way you've refused to let what happened to you define what happens next. I've learned more about strength from you than from anyone I've ever known." Marcus felt his voice wavering, but pushed through. "And somewhere along the way, something changed in me. I started looking forward to our visits, started thinking about you when we weren't together, started wanting things I had convinced myself I would never want again." He met her eyes. "I'm in love with you, Shanice, not because you needed me, but because of who you are, because of how you make me feel, because when I'm with you and Yolanda, I remember why I built everything I built, because you feel like home to me." Silence. Long, stretching silence. Shanice's eyes were shining with tears, but her expression still wasn't readable. Marcus couldn't tell if he had just made the best decision of his life or the worst. "I'm not asking for anything," he continued quickly. "I'm not expecting anything, I just couldn't keep holding this inside. You deserve to know. Whatever you decide, whatever you want, I'll accept it. Our friendship matters more to me than anything else." More silence. Then Shanice laughed, soft at first, then louder, not mocking, relieved. "Do you know how long I've been waiting for you to say something?" she asked. "What?" "Marcus, everyone knows, Paulette knows, Celeste knows, Dr. Okafor knows. Yolanda definitely knows. She asks me at least once a week when you're going to make it official." Marcus blinked. "I don't understand." "I've been in love with you for over a year, since the day you helped us move into the apartment and couldn't assemble a bookshelf to save your life, since the day I watched you read stories to Yolanda and saw the man you really are under all that business success." "Then why didn't you say anything?" "Because I was afraid too, afraid that I wasn't good enough for you, afraid that you saw me as a project instead of a person, afraid that once you finished saving me you'd move on to someone else." They sat there, 2 people who had been hiding the same truth from each other for the same reasons. "We're both idiots," Marcus said finally. "Complete idiots," Shanice agreed, and then she reached across the table and took his hand. The proposal came 6 months later. Marcus did it properly, down on one knee in the garden at the Whitfield Foundation shelter, the same garden where they had first walked together, the same garden where Yolanda had done her cartwheels and declared him a permanent part of their family. Celeste was there. Dr. Okafor was there. Paulette and Destiny were there. Gerald stood in the background with tears streaming down his face that he would later deny. Yolanda held the ring box. "Uncle Marcus made me practice this 17 times, she announced to everyone. He wanted it to be perfect. Yolanda. What? It's true. Shanice laughed. She had been laughing a lot lately. It looked good on her. Shanice Coleman, Marcus began. 3 years ago, your daughter texted the wrong number looking for help. That text reached me, and my life has never been the same. He looked up at her, at this woman who had survived the unsurvivable, who had rebuilt herself from nothing, who had taught him that wealth meant nothing without someone to share it with. I spent most of my life building an empire, but I never built a home. I never had a family of my own. I convinced myself I didn't need those things, that success was enough, that money could fill the emptiness. His voice caught. I was wrong. You showed me that, you and Yolanda. You showed me what actually matters, and now I can't imagine my life without you in it. He held up the ring. I'm not asking you to need me, I know you don't. You've proven you can stand on your own. I'm asking you to choose me, to walk beside me for whatever time we have left, to build a home together, to be a family. Shanice was crying now, the good kind of tears. So, Shanice Coleman, will you marry me? The answer was yes. It was always going to be yes. The wedding was small. 50 people in a church that Marcus had helped restore 5 years earlier. Shanice wore a simple white dress. Yolanda was the maid of honor. Gerald was the best man. Marcus's sons flew in from California and Texas. The distance between them had been slowly closing over the past year. Sunday phone calls, visits during holidays, the gradual rebuilding of relationships that should never have fallen apart. His oldest, Jerome, pulled him aside before the ceremony. Dad, I'm sorry. For what? For not being here when Mom died, for pulling away instead of pulling closer, for all the years we lost. Marcus put his hand on his son's shoulder. We didn't lose them. We just set them aside for a while. We're here now. That's what matters. Jerome nodded. His eyes were wet. She would have liked Shanice. Mom, I mean. She would have approved. I know. I think about that a lot. The ceremony was short and beautiful. They wrote their own vows. Shanice promised to keep challenging Marcus when he got too comfortable. Marcus promised to keep showing up even when showing up was hard. Yolanda read a poem she had written herself. Something about storms and rainbows and finding family in unexpected places. There wasn't a dry eye in the church. At the reception, Celeste gave a toast. 3 years ago, a little girl sent a text message that was meant for her uncle. It went to a stranger instead, and that stranger became family. I've been doing this work for 8 years. I've seen hundreds of families come through our shelter, but I've never seen anything like this. What Marcus and Shanice have built is proof that love finds a way, that healing is possible, that second chances are real. She raised her glass to the wrong number that turned out to be exactly right. Everyone drank. Later, as the evening wound down and guests began leaving, Marcus and Shanice stood on the balcony of the reception hall looking out at the Memphis skyline. Big day, Shanice said. Biggest of my life. Are you scared? Terrified, but the good kind of terrified. Shanice leaned against him. What happens now? Now we go home, all 3 of us, and we start building a life together. That simple? That simple and that complicated. She smiled. He felt it against his shoulder. I never told you this, she said quietly. But that first night in the shelter, after you left, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what you said, about doors and walking through them, about everyone deserving a chance. I remember. I made a promise to myself that night, that if I ever got to the other side of this, if I ever healed enough to feel whole again, I would help other people find their doors, the way you helped me find mine. Marcus looked down at her. What kind of help did you have in mind? I want to go back to school, get my degree in social work, work with domestic violence survivors, do what Celeste does, what Dr. Okafor does, be the person who opens doors for others. Marcus felt his heart expand in a way he didn't know was still possible. I think that's the best idea you've ever had. You'll support me, even though it means more school, less money coming in, long hours studying? I'll support anything that makes you happy. That's what family does. Shanice turned to face him fully. You know what I love most about you, Marcus Whitfield? What's that? You never tried to save me, not once, from the very first night you offered help but let me make every choice myself. You supported without controlling. You showed up without taking over. Do you know how rare that is? I know what it feels like to be controlled. I would never do that to anyone. I know. That's what makes you different. That's what makes this work. She kissed him, soft and certain, the kiss of someone who had found something worth keeping. Inside the reception hall, Yolanda was dancing with Jerome's daughter, a 7-year-old named Maya, who had instantly become her best friend. The future spreading out in front of them all. Ready to go home? Marcus asked. Shanice took his hand. I've been ready for a long time. I was just waiting for you to catch up. They gathered Yolanda, said their goodbyes, climbed into the car where Gerald waited with a smile that said everything words couldn't. As they drove through the Memphis night, Yolanda fell asleep in the back seat. Gerald hummed softly, along with the radio. Shanice rested her head on Marcus's shoulder. And Marcus thought about the journey that had brought them here. A wrong number, a scared child, a woman who refused to be defined by her pain, a man who had forgotten why he was building anything. Sometimes life breaks you in ways you don't expect. Sometimes the breaking is where the healing begins. Sometimes the text meant for someone else is the one that changes your life forever. Marcus Whitfield had built skyscrapers and shopping centers and apartment complexes. He had made billions and lost his soul and found it again in the most unlikely places. But his greatest construction wasn't any of those things. It was this, right here, right now, a family built from strangers, a love built from courage, a life built from second chances. And it had all started with a 9-year-old girl hiding in a closet, trusting the universe enough to ask for help. That's the thing about darkness. It shows you where the light can get in. That's the thing about rock bottom. It gives you something solid to push off from. That's the thing about wrong numbers. Sometimes they're the rightest numbers of all. If this story touched you, if it made you think about your own journey, your own second chances, your own doors waiting to be opened, then do me a favor. Subscribe to Billionaire Stories with Mr. Lawson. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that healing is possible, that showing up matters, that family is something you can choose. And remember, no matter how dark your night feels right now, the morning is coming. It always does. You just have to be brave enough to wait for it. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, someone shows up to wait with you. Someone who doesn't try to fix you. Someone who just sits beside you. Someone who believes you're worth waiting for. That's what love looks like. That's what family feels like. That's what this story is really about. Not billionaires or wrong numbers or dramatic rescues. Just people choosing each other again and again and again until the choosing becomes home.